Are there Indians who believe that the United States cannot do anything wrong? Why do they fail to apply their mind? Where is the scientific temper? Prime Minister Netanyahu is in a position to defy President Trump. 150 judges and lawyers from India went there. Who funded it? We don't know. It is probably funded by multinationals. Now, does it, what shall I say, is it judicious for the Supreme Court to take part in a match funded by multinationals? Is Pakistan's diplomacy doing well? I should imagine so. Dear friends, happy to be with you once again. Now let us start with Indian Navy's rescuing 24 Indian seafarers in a ship Marivex that caught fire near, or rather in the Gulf of Oman. Now that was on Monday, that was yesterday, 1:30 p.m. The Indian Navy and the Omani authorities worked together, and the Indian Navy saved 24 lives. I saw the video. You know how the sailors were being lifted onto the helicopter. Well, we do not exactly know why there was a fire. Initial reports suggest that the U.S. Central Command was shooting at the ship. Well, it will be appropriate to summon the United States ambassador or the deputy chief of mission, or if you want to play it a little more diplomatically, the naval attaché, and ask for more details, gently insist that an inquiry should be made and India should be kept in the picture. Now, let's look at a larger picture. You know, when the BRICS had the meeting here, India is a chair, no? I had then proposed through the media that India as chair should propose sending a BRICS humanitarian mission to the stranded ships. Well, by now, stranded for 102 days. You know, you can run short of food, medicines, and more things. Now, India should have, as BRICS chair, asked both the United States and Iran to ensure the safety of that humanitarian mission. Well, India didn't do that. Now, we also mentioned, I think, last week about the torpedoing of the Iranian ship Dana. You know, it had come to India on the 17th of February and welcomed by the Indian Navy And in early March, the American submarine torpedoed it. And as we discussed last time, India did not raise this at the Quad meeting. Now, this morning, I was on a channel and a retired Commodore of the Indian Navy, he said that India did not raise the matter because it happened in international waters. Frankly, I was shocked. So I responded to him by saying that Quad is about maritime safety in the Indo-Pacific. Indian Ocean is part of the Indo-Pacific. And if you're talking about maritime safety and you take away the international waters, what is left? So, my question, are there Indians who believe that the United States cannot do anything wrong? Why do they fail to apply their mind? Where is the scientific temper about which India's first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru wrote in 1946 edition of The Discovery of India? Now, let's look at the larger context. This happened in the larger context of the war on Iran. Something serious happened on Sunday night, Monday morning. Iran sent missiles to Israel. And why did Iran do that? Well, when the ceasefire was declared in April, as mediated by Pakistan, the agreed paper, the agreement included cessation of war on all fronts. American Secretary of War Pete Hegseth denied that was not the case. But Pakistan, the mediator, said, yes, that was the case. In other words, there should be cessation of firing on all fronts. Then what happened? Prime Minister Netanyahu went on firing. And what did President Trump do? He arranged for a meeting between Lebanon and Israel. And a ceasefire was declared between Lebanon and Israel. I tell you, this is a charade. Because Lebanon was not firing back at Israel. It was Hezbollah that was firing. So, if President Trump were serious, he should have brought Hezbollah also to the table. Now, we know that he has claimed, President Trump, that he has spoken to some high official of Hezbollah. Well, if he has, let us compliment him, because it's important to talk. But let me make one point. You see, after Iran sent its missiles, incidentally, look at the map. Look at the countries between Iran and Israel. It is possible that these missiles passed through Jordan. And one journalist was telling me of having seen videos of young Jordanians getting a lot of pleasure looking at the projectiles going. Well, remember, some time back, when Iran had sent missiles to Israel, Jordan had cooperated with the United States, with the Pentagon, in shooting down the same missiles. So look at the change. Now, then what happened? President Trump spoke to Prime Minister Netanyahu and said, don't retaliate. Well, Netanyahu did retaliate. And a petrochemical factory in Iran has been damaged. So what does it mean? It means Prime Minister Netanyahu is in a position to defy President Trump. Now, I want to recall that way back in 1982, when Israel was bombing Beirut, left and right, and women and children were getting killed, President Reagan told his Secretary of State, ask Israel to stop it. Well, Israel ignored. Then Reagan got onto the phone and he told Menachem Begin, the Prime Minister, stop the Holocaust. Begin was dismayed because his family had been killed in the Holocaust. So he said, are you talking to me about the Holocaust? Reagan persisted, stop it now. Let me finish the story. Within 10 minutes or so, the Israeli cabinet met and the bombing was stopped. Now, question is, why can't President Trump do the same? Why can't? Well, the question hangs in the air. Now, about Hezbollah, this Western media say it is a proxy of Iran. It's wrong. It is true that it was inspired by the Iranian Revolution, but it was formed to fight Israeli invasion of Lebanon starting from 1982. And by 2000, Israel had to withdraw. So that is where we are. Now, Hezbollah again, it is an NGO, it is a militant wing, and it's a political wing. Until some time back, it was part of the government. So Trump was not serious about arranging for a ceasefire by Israel as regards Lebanon is concerned. In fact, if you look at history, for Israel, ceasefire means the other side should cease firing. As far as Israel is concerned, it is free to continue firing. Strange, isn't it? The BBC has said that Iran, by striking the way it did, has improved its negotiating clout. I tend to agree with the BBC because Iran's message to President Trump that it was in no hurry to come to a settlement unless the terms respected Iran's red lines. President Trump has been saying, that he had finished off Iran's navy, which is at the bottom of the sea, according to him. There is no air force and this and that. Iran is giving the message, no, if you want another round, we are ready to fight. So, what is now going to happen? Iran has also highlighted the discord between President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu. The other day, Trump had a rather tense conversation with Netanyahu when Trump used expletives, which is a style. So that is a plus point for Iran. Now, the other day Trump said He was going to have an agreement by Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and now this has happened. So let us see what Trump will do now. Now, I want to say a word about a popular misconception that idea of Israeli defense forces are very powerful, invincible as in the region. Well, correct, but let us dig deeper. Why is it invincible? The answer is simple. It is invincible because it is supported by the Pentagon, which gives the weapons, which gives the technology, and the American administration, which gives Israel the diplomatic protection. In other words, the IDF is strong because, and only because, this is the point I want to emphasize, it has the support, wholehearted support of the United States. Per se, the IDF is not strong. Let's keep this in mind. Now, why is it that the United States is giving so much support? Well, Biden did it. Trump also has done it. Well, that is because of the Jewish lobby. Now, there is a book which, dear listeners, you might like to read. Let me get you the title. The Israel Lobby and U.S. Foreign Policy, published in 2007, written by Professor John H. Mearsheimer and Professor Stephen M. Walt, both brilliant professors. And Mearsheimer has been, giving video talks about what is now happening. So basically, the tail is wagging the dog. And to recall, in 1982, Reagan stopped the tail from wagging the dog. Now, I want to say a word about a tennis match which was staged in London on the 7th of June. Union Ministry of Law and Justice took the initiative. 150, according to media report, it is in the Tribune, you can read it. 150 judges and lawyers from India went there. Who funded it? We don't know. It is probably funded by multinationals. Now, does it, what shall I say, is it judicious for the Supreme Court to take part in a match funded by multinationals? I leave the question open. I'm not answering it. You can answer. You might also recall that Prime Minister Modi had given the other day the 7-point program about austerity. Well, is this an example of such austerity? Let's leave it at that. And apart from the Tribune, I don't know whether other newspapers have reported it, and let us see how the media discuss it. Now, next, let's move on. Unfortunately, a young man, Anshul Kuncha, she was 28-year-old, from Telangana, Guntla Pochampalli in Mechal Malkagiri district. He was murdered when he was delivering pizza. Terrible. Our condolences to the bereaved family. Some time back, a student from Bangalore Saket Srinivasaya, he was found missing. He was 22. And if days later, his body was found. Question: what is AMA doing? Two, what can the AMA do? Two things. One, our diplomatic missions in North America and elsewhere too should sensitize our students and young people about security. There should be a 24/7 telephone line in our missions where anyone who is in danger or anyone who comes to know of his or her friend who is in danger can make a phone call. Correct? And then we should take this up formally. I repeat, formally with the United States. And we should explain to the United States, the interlocutor, that there are signs of xenophobia, hatred for foreigners in the United States. The other day, I was told by a journalist that an Indian was driving and there was an American lady driver. She was also there. And apparently the Indian did not do anything wrong. But nevertheless, she was offended. And she said, why don't you go back to where you come from? Now, let me make it clear. She didn't use such language. Her language was more impolite. But let me not repeat that. So, it will be appropriate for India to take it up, this matter, with the United States at any level. AIM can do it. Our ambassador in Washington can do it. Or MEA can summon in a gentle way the United States Embassy at whatever level. You know, quite often, correct me if I'm wrong, Indo-American talks are anodyne. ANODYNE. Now, what does it mean? If you check up the dictionary, intended to avoid causing offense or disagreement, especially by not expressing strong feelings or opinions. Now, it is my view in diplomatic intercourse, one can speak firmly, one doesn't have to raise the voice. And one can speak firmly and clearly without causing offense. That is the art of diplomacy. Now, let's move on. The India-America trade deal is still hanging fire. Distinguished Ambassador Gore said the other day, only 1% is left and it will be completed soon. Well, then came the news. America wants to impose 12.5% duty on India. For what? I read that document put out by the US Trade Representative. It's about 75 and odd pages, very detailed, but it says that India has failed to have any legislation which prohibits importing goods made wholly or in part by forced labor from other countries. Interesting, eh? And therefore, this 12.5. And our Commerce Minister says it doesn't matter. We will discuss with them. And the same minister now says it will be done sometime in July. And then you know what is going to be done in July? He has said it, the first phase of an interim deal. Mark the words, first phase of an interim deal. This reminds me of the English expression tantalizing. You know, India has been tantalized. Trade deal is going to be done soon. President Trump said he loves India. He loves Prime Minister Modi. So, now that reminds, let's dig a little deeper into the expression tantalizing. That is part of Greek mythology. King Tantalus in mythology was a wealthy Greek ruler, beloved of gods till he did some wrong things. He cooked his son and served that in a feast. Or they also say that he tried to steal ambrosia. Anyway, then what happened? He was placed in a pool of water beneath a tree full of fruits, low branches. But when he tries to take one fruit, it eludes him. When he tries to drink the water, it goes. So tantalizing, rouse expectations, but always getting frustrated. Well, America should stop tantalizing India. And let us hope that India will not succumb and stand up and speak up. And the trade deal will be balanced. It will take care of America's interests and equally well India's interest. Now, in this context, I would like, dear friends, to read this article, if you can see. That is, US-India special relationship is now cold-eyed transactionalism. It's in the Indian Express today, and the author is Kanti Bajpai. Very good scholar, very solid. Now, a word about the petrol price. You know, now they say that the oil marketing majors are losing 600 crores or 750 crores a day. And they speak of the under-recovery gap. Well, let's dig deeper. Now, I read it on reddit.com, reddit.com. And of course, these things have to be always cross-checked. It says that the government-owned IOC, VPCL, and SPCL, they earned $13 billion from discounted Russian oil. So, the other day at the IIC, we had a discussion about Iran war and all that, and the global consequences, economic consequences. And we had a very good speaker. And mention was made about, the loss of the oil majors, oil marketing companies. My speaker was Ambassador, who was Secretary Economic Affairs, Damu Ravi, brilliant. My other speaker was Professor Gulshan Geethal, both brilliant speakers. But when I asked, does anyone know how much these saying oil marketing companies made when they got cheap Russian oil? Nobody had the answer. Now, the point I'm making is that the figure I mentioned, 13 billion, Well, this has to be cross-checked, and it is for the Indian media to find out what's the correct figure, you know. Now, one last point, and I'll be brief. Is Pakistan's diplomacy doing well? I should imagine so. You know, not only is Pakistan mediating, Pakistan, as we know, signed a mutual defense treaty with Saudi Arabia and has sent a squadron of airplanes and all that. It is keeping high-level contacts with China and, of course, high-level contacts with United States. So Pakistan's diplomacy is doing well. And we discussed last time, no? The RSS saying that we should open a back channel. And we had then asked the question, why not a front channel? Is MEA listening? India has a lot to gain and nothing to lose by opening the front channel. Now, dear friends, thank you for lending me your ear.